This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
You are listening to the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles, part of the CLNS Media Network. And this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS. Also, don't forget about our friends with Factor. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50 off and use code Bedard50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. Couple of news items, Greg, that we want to start with. First, Jahlani Tavai. So I was reading a lot of posts on Twitter yesterday when Tavai went down at OTA practice.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it could be something significant. Adam Schefter has since updated Tavai's status. It's a calf injury. He will be out until camp. Is that better than you thought it would be?
Yeah, Nick. At the time, like he went down in the middle of the line. I think he might have been blitzing or something from the linebacker spot, and he almost immediately went down. And I mean, I guess the good part was he grabbed sort of he held his hand on his left upper calf, which is good. I mean, if it was lower, I'd be like Achilles. I mean, I did have the thought that he popped his Achilles and that's it. But he even when the trainer came over, then the team doctor, like he never took his hand off his lower left calf, the upper part of the calf. And, it was, I haven't seen it that happen in a while where, I mean, the whole practice came to a halt. Players were on a knee on both fields. A lot of players came up. They cut the music off. Vrabel was right there. Normally sometimes in these practices, it's like, all right, and at certain times when Belichick was here, we got to get our work done, move the drill up 10 yards and let's keep going while the guy gets attended to behind the play. So, I thought it was serious. We'll see how it goes. He had to be helped off. He couldn't really do much of anything. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a pretty long injury. I would be surprised if he's cleared for training camp or at least the beginning, but we'll see.
All right, let's jump to Will Campbell quickly because there's not a lot to be said. When you are a rookie, your money is slotted. If you're a first-round pick, you pretty much know what you're going to get overall, and a lot of it has to do with these contract negotiations with the cash flow. And Will was one of the last guys in the top 10 to get signed, but he has officially signed his contract. He is locked and loaded. Two guys remain unsigned, Greg, Travion Henderson and Craig Woodson. Now, the Henderson thing, I actually covered this in a recent podcast. It's an NFL problem. And what I mean by that is Henderson is a second-round pick, as we know. And the precedent has been set. The Cleveland Browns and Houston Texans decided to give their second-round picks guaranteed money, which doesn't usually happen. I don't think it ever happened to this level for a second-round pick. And so now you've got 29, 30 other second-round picks that haven't signed their contracts yet because the rest of the NFL is trying to figure out why Cleveland and Houston decided to do that. Any impact when we talk about rookie contracts and this stuff getting done, not being done yet? Any impact?
Not really. This is one of these battle lines that's been drawn, and I don't disagree with the agents in that. I think a lot of these guys, at least maybe the guys in the first 3 rounds, at least the first 2 rounds, their contracts should be guaranteed largely. The team took the chance on them, especially the second round picks. They're locked in for at least 4 years. Then they can be franchised. Like, I do think I heard Burt Breer talking. I think it was Burt. Somebody was talking about this the other day, where they think that when it comes to the 18-game schedule, one of the things that the players might ask back is free agency quicker for draft picks. And, I think that might be the case down the road. But no, as far as Henderson, look, it could go on a little ways, but I don't think it's going to have an impact.
Interesting as like a backdrop to this. I don't know how many people are paying attention, just to let all of you know. Roger Goodell at what was it, like the quarterly ownership meetings or whatever a couple of weeks ago, he made it a point to let everybody know that the owners are not happy with the slice of pie they're getting. Right now, it's pretty much 50-50. So when we look at, these instances of ownership is almost pushed by one owner to spend guaranteed money on a second round pick, it might be even more delicate of a conversation now, given how the owners are feeling about the big picture. So just keep that in mind. It's not a Patriot problem, so to speak. It's really a league problem. And that's why Henderson isn't signed just yet. Craig Woodson, I have no idea. I'm guessing it's cash flow, whatever's happening there. All right, let's get to Stefon Diggs. He returned to OTAs, Greg, yesterday. Not surprising, given your reporting last week, correct?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, basically everything that I ranted and raved about with Felger and Maz, whether it be Drake Maye or Stefon Diggs, came into reality this week.
And let me ask you, I don't know if you've done any reporting on this, if you've talked to anybody, it's kind of assumed, did Vrabel have the quote-unquote talk with Diggs to try to get him back here?
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know the answer to it, but my guess in how these things go, I think Steph was probably embarrassed about the video the weekend before, and he decided to show up and play nice and make an appearance. And so, I don't think it's as dramatic as who is making it out to be about the Patriots are floating these reports about Steph's contract and about the physical and how he hasn't been paid yet and like all this stuff. I mean, look, they knew exactly what they were doing getting into bed with Steph Diggs. They knew how it was going to go. They knew he wasn't going to be a Boy Scout. The video was a bad look, but it would take something catastrophic for him not to pass his physical when he's ready. And from the looks of it the other day, it's not going to be too far off. I mean, it will be, but he looked great the other day. But unless something catastrophic happens, Stefon Diggs is going to be on this football team. They've had these plans for a while. There's no plan right now to change anything up. So again, much ado about nothing in a dead time for Boston Sports News.
You just said he looked great, given the circumstances. Give us some details.
Yeah, a very slight limp at times. When he ran, he looked good. At one point, he was working out on I don't know how you describe it. Sort of like one of these like little platforms where you're basically using it for balancing. It's almost like a half of a like bouncy ball or something like that. And him and both Jalen Polk were on top of them, and it's to work on balance and also strengthen the knee and things like that. And like his balance was ridiculous, let alone his hands. And he did some cutting, not favoring anything. I was just thinking about it before, Nick. I'm just comparing it to like Kendrick Bourne the year before.
Yeah.
And they were lost for the season, sort of a similar point about like midway through the season. And Stefon Diggs is way, way further ahead than when Kendrick Bourne was at this same point last year, where Bourne basically wasn't doing anything. His leg looked stiff. He looked like he was going to be a ways off, which he ended up being. Diggs looks terrific.
Yeah, I mean, Bourne didn't really take part in OTAs last year. He didn't take part in camp last year. And it certainly seems with what Diggs, and I only saw the limited video that was out there, but there was one specific drill that he did with Kayshon Boutte where they're marrying each other. And I quote tweeted the video from Mike Reese, and I said, if you're just watching this video, if I put this video in front of you, and I said, tell me which guy got ACL surgery a few months ago, I don't think there's any way that you could tell me which guy got ACL surgery. I mean, he step for step with Boutte, and I would actually argue he ran the drill crisper than Boutte did. And so just from the video I saw, I felt pretty optimistic. So I want to go back because when Diggs signed, Adam Schefter tweeted out that he was ahead of schedule. And at the time, I think a lot of people, even myself, we were like, yeah, let's wait and see. Let's pump the brakes on that. This might be the agent getting out there making this sound better than it really is. But given what you saw yesterday, is it crazy, Greg, to believe that Diggs, if he continues with this progression and trajectory, is it crazy that he could be ready by week 1?
I don't think it's crazy any longer. Again, a lot of the discussion we've had about Diggs and his injury, the only thing we've seen is, social media videos and, stuff that he's putting out there. This was the first time that he was there when the media was there and we got to see him do certain things. It's impressive. And, right now it's very early June. I would not be surprised if he's not cleared by, say, the middle of August or something like that, which gives him a couple of weeks of practice, probably like 3 weeks of practice to get ready for the season opener. So no, I no longer think that it's crazy talking about him with week 1.
He's got just over 3 months to be out there and ready and fully ready. So we'll see if he can do that. All right, before we continue, we got to talk about Drake Maye's day. We got to talk about a lot of stuff. But first, Greg, tell the fine people about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is the best place to turn your sports knowledge into cash. With millions of members, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Cash in on the basketball playoffs with Prize Picks. Don't miss your last chance to add your favorite players from the court to your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's points, rebounds, assists, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash. Our Prize Picks, on Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections with different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much more. Of course, we are down to the championship series in both basketball and hockey. Looking forward to it. I'm going to be all over the app making my picks because it makes the games enjoyable. The app is awesome. You got to get in on it. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the ice in your Prize Picks lineup, whether it's goals, points, hit or hits. Take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. I think Connor McDavid will get more than 1 goal this week, or Brad Marchand will get more than 2 penalty minutes. That is going to be a spicy series. Cook up your hot takes with your friends and win money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
For all of you listening, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. For those watching the show on CLNS, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel where you can find our show and a lot of other great Patriots content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. Drake Maye, how much better did he look yesterday than the prior 2 OTA practices?
Yeah, so I would say the first OTA practice, he had the 4 interceptions. Obviously, that session was an F, and then he was 7 of 7. That one was probably more like a C because a lot of it was like check down stuff. The second one was a lot of check down stuff. I'll say, Drake Maye showed not the full arsenal because I wouldn't say there were any like huge deep shots, but what really impressed me, Nick, was he looked a lot more comfortable. His processing was better. His identification of where the holes were going to be in the defense was really good. He had this hole shot sort of on a corner route to Kayshon Boutte down the left sideline where Boutte ran to the flag and Maye put a perfect ball out there, like just beyond the cornerback who was squatting just in front of the safety. He had another sort of like wheel route, perfect pass in stride to Ramondre Stevenson down the left side. But he was, 14 of 16 in the practice. Didn't have a whole lot of problems with pressure, scrambled once. He just looked like the big change for me was just like how comfortable and calm he was in this practice. And like, you didn't even really notice the hitch or anything like that. Like, he was decisive, his reads were good, and he played fast.
I just want to make sure this is clear. So we can look at numbers at training camp. We can look at numbers at OTAs, and sometimes it can be swayed by what they asked the quarterback to do. It didn't look to you like they had schemed the day easier for May, did it?
No, I don't think so. I will say there wasn't as much pressure on May and the quarterbacks in this practice. I don't know why that was. I don't know if it was because Morgan Moses played more snaps or what, or maybe the defense was working on something different. A lot of it was, they were playing. It was somewhat situational where they were going through the downs, like it was first down, second down, third and
Right.
long,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So it didn't seem like they set it up that May was going to have a good day in front of the media or anything like that. I just think they're making very good progress.
All right, we got to talk about the next guy. We're going to keep bringing him up if he keeps forcing writers like Greg to tweet about him and write about him. Efton
86.
Efton freaking Chisum. Greg, when do you start to take him seriously, or have you already started to take him seriously?
Yeah, I've already taken him seriously. I think on the last two podcasts after practices we talked, I think I've used the phrase like it's going to be hard to keep him off the roster. And I actually, heard that exact phrasing from somebody the other day after practice, somebody, with the Patriots. And look, the guy he gets open really well, quickly, and he catches the ball. I mean, there was one stretch, I think it was 4 passes out of like 6 that he caught in the practice, to the point where like I looked over at Phil Perry and I was like, Phil, are they going to throw to anybody else in this practice? And like, I don't know what options you have. Like, a very quiet practice for Javon Baker. Not sure why that was. Of course, Jalen Polk isn't really working, during team portions of practice. Pop had a couple of plays, nothing really down the field, but Efton freaking Chisum. We'll see, once we get into camp with the pads and the speed and, preseason games where, can he take a lick and keep going? But at least in the underwear Olympics, the dude's been a gold medalist so far.
Now, he played some on the outside yesterday, at least lined up there. Is that just, look, we got a lack of depth there because some of the injuries, Hollins wasn't there. You mentioned Diggs obviously was, limited and mostly off the sidelines along with Jalen Polk. Is Chisum playing on the outside at all in your evaluation of the player so far? Is that at all an option, even if it was from time to time?
Well, let's say he does make the team and he's a regular contributor at some point in his Patriots career. I mean, there will be times that he lines up on the outside. I bet you it was, if I know Josh McDaniels well from watching him over the years, I would not be surprised if they weren't trying to push the kid and see what he's capable of, get him out of his comfort zone, say, okay, we know you can play slot in this offense. Like, let's see if you're paying that close of attention to the other spots, because really in this offense, like the receivers need to know how to play every position. They need to know what every position, receiver position is doing on each particular play. So he's definitely not going to be an outside receiver for this team. I mean, he basically looks a lot like Danny Amendola out there, maybe a little bit bigger. He's sort of Amendola / Julian Edelman. But the kid's been really impressive so far. And like, if final cuts were tomorrow, there's no question he would be on this football team.
This isn't necessarily Chisum specific when I ask you this, because we still have to see him, as you mentioned, in pads and all that. We know that he ran over a 4.7 40, and that was a big question about his transition to the NFL. but I'm always fascinated, Greg, and from a guy that's, you've spoken to just a ton of people in the league, and the process as good as anybody. How is it? I think some people would look at this and say, how is it that a UDFA falls out of the draft and can contribute to a team like some of these guys do? Like, how do these guys fall through the cracks? Is it just, hey, look, it's not necessarily a science and these things just happen? Or how does that actually unfold? How do some of these guys fall out of the draft completely, but yet prove themselves to be NFL ready by week 1 of the season?
Yeah, I think Nick, for a lot of people, there's the whole size speed element, and Chisum is like, I think he's 5'10", and like you said, ran a 4.7. I do not have a lot of his numbers up here, but I'll take your word for it because you're the man and crap like this.
Well, thank you. I believe it was a 4.71, but anyway.
There you go. Now you're just flexing. But it's so I mean, when you're talking 5'10" and 4.71, a lot of these teams want to take the risk on, the higher upside guy, the guy that can run, 4.3, and we'll teach him how to play. But occasionally you do get these front offices or coaching staffs. Now, a guy like, Puka Nacua is a guy that comes to mind. Now, he was a 5th round draft choice, so it wasn't like he was undrafted, but he was probably overdrafted by the Rams. If the Rams didn't take him, maybe he's more of a 6th, 7th rounder type. But I think it's really incumbent upon the coaching staff and the scouting staffs to, when you get down towards the end of the draft, like, take somebody that you just like, that loves football,
right,
that just knows how to play, that has the instincts, and see what they can do. And so yeah, I mean, I think so far so good for Chisum.
We'll see if he can continue that as we get a little bit more competitive at these practices within the next month and a half. All right, I've got a few more questions for Greg, but first he wants to brag about Factor meals.
Hell yeah, I do. Summer's here, more sun, more light, more time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That's where Factor comes in. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat, perfect for any active lifestyle over summer and beyond. With 45 weekly meal menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your summer gains and goals. Choose from options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, the one that I use, and more. Factor powers your day sun up to sundown with nutritious breakfast, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. Factor has your whole day covered. Enjoy more this summer. Get Factor if you want all the flavor and none of the fuss. And that's my big thing with Factor is the flavor. It's off the charts. Forget about how it comes packaged, and you just pop it in the microwave for 2 to 3 minutes, depending on what you're cooking. But I'm telling you, once it comes out, like, forget diet food. This is like restaurant food. The seasoning is off the charts. The sauces are awesome. I love this product, and you will too. Get started at factormeals.com/Bedard50off and use code Bedard50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. So that's code Bedard50off at factormeals.com/Bedard50off for 50% off plus free shipping. Factormeals.com/Bedard50off.
I also want to remind you, speaking of Bedard, you want to check out Boston Sports Journal, $50 for the year. Bedard, Giardi, Corrales, Haggerty, all of them doing great work. Check it out, $50 for the year. All right, so Josh McDaniels met with you guys yesterday in the media, guys and gals, and he talked about how they were going to install some wrinkles into the offense during yesterday's practice. I know you can't necessarily get into specifics, but did you see wrinkles, Greg? And how significant were the wrinkles that you saw, if you did?
So good question. one that I hadn't thought of. And I heard McDaniels, and I also was there when Thomas Brown was talking, and they sort of talked about the genesis of how those things happen. And it's really, these guys just like sit around in a room. They have a lot of time this offseason. A lot of them, like, their families aren't here. They're back home. They're living in a hotel. So why not spend all the time in the office and just shoot the shit and come up with stuff? And that's what it sounds like going on. I will say, now thinking about it, I think, the play to Booty looked a little bit different. I will say, I thought some of the emphasis on, I don't know if it's an emphasis, but some of the end result of, the running backs getting involved in the passing game, looked a little bit different than your traditional, Patriots stuff. And, a little, they didn't run the ball a whole heck of a lot, but there were some wrinkles to the run game that I thought were interesting. But yeah, Josh definitely talked about, like, they were running some plays that day that he has no experience with. And, that good on him for putting himself out there and just not staying in his comfort zone. I think that's a big point of emphasis for him in his return this year to the Patriots.
All right, somebody we discussed last week was Tyrese Robinson. He was out from practice yesterday. How did that impact left guard? And how are you feeling about left guard after watching these 3 OTA practices?
Yeah, so I'll just say, in the spirit of upholding the coverage rules established by the Patriots and the NFL, that I think it's safe to say, I don't think I'm going to get tasered for this, that Wes Schweitzer and Cole Strange got a lot of playing time. I mean, I don't even know who else would have been options. I mean, Layden Robinson seems pretty down the depth chart. Jared Wilson, of course, isn't out there, and I think he's going to be a factor in left guard at some point. Basically, Doug Marrone confirmed that to me, in our chat before practice. I mean, I think Nick, I just think it is what it is at this point. I mean, I don't love Schweitzer. I don't love Cole Strange. Layden Robinson has a lot more limitations than I was able to see on film previously. And I think there's a concern about, how much he's going to be able to absorb about, what they're doing with this offense. And look, it's not just him. I mean, it's a tough position to put a young player, second year in the league, another system, another blocking system, more offensive line coaches, all that stuff. So, I don't feel great about it, but I'm not going to panic yet until we get to camp, because I definitely want to see what Wilson can do. And I do think he's going to be a factor at center as well. I mean, I would say that center is a fairly big concern of mine at this point. I mean, Garrett Bradbury, you're hoping, is good enough, but would I be shocked, Nick, if this is a situation where Garrett Bradbury starts the year, but midway through the year, Jared Wilson is starting for you at center? No, I don't think that's outlandish at all.
Do you think the coaching staff, maybe it's not even maybe this, are they happy with Will Campbell so far?
Sounded like it from Doug Marrone the other day. And, quite frankly, I didn't really notice Will Campbell in this practice. So that's always a good thing when you're not noticing offensive linemen. I'm sure it wasn't perfect for him, but, Doug seems impressed with him. And I think his mind and competitiveness more than anything, and they knew this is why they drafted him where they did, has really stood out. And, his ability to process and also ask questions. Morgan Moses has talked about that. Morgan Moses is imparting a lot of knowledge to these guys, like multiple young offensive linemen, not just Will Campbell. But, I think Campbell's doing a good job, and a big thing for a left tackle. And he did this well at LSU also is, the more practice time you get against a defense that's going to do a lot of different things up front, like the Patriots, the more you see it, the more comfortable you will be adjusting. And I think he's doing exactly that. He's improving with every practice in that regard.
Let's jump to the other side of the ball. So Marcus Jones was out yesterday, not practicing. That led reportedly to, Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial playing some in the slot. Either one of those guys stand out? And where do you think we are at the nickelback position not banned situation going on?
Yeah, and no Carlton Davis again.
Right.
I
Yep.
will say it's interesting that it's mass hysteria about Stefon Diggs, missing OTAs, and even though he hasn't gotten any of his guaranteed money yet because he needs to pass his physical before that happens, which is often what happens. But Carlton Davis, who's fully healthy. We saw him out there, I think, the first OTA. He hasn't been at the last two that the media were there. He has all his money. He got a lot of money. No reports about that. I think we can all guess why, because Steph Diggs is a big personality and a receiver. And even though, Carlton Davis is probably at this point in his career, given his position, he's a better player than Steph Diggs. Now, I'm not saying that he's not, that Carlton Davis is more important to this team, even though he's pretty damn important. But to me, it just furthers sort of the discussion that we had about the media about, exactly what are their aims in terms of keeping this story going. But anyways, I'm not going to lie to you, Nick. I didn't really notice those guys. I mean, look, let's just say the quarterbacks, almost all of them except Ben Woolridge. I mean, Dobbs and May had tremendous days. Not a whole lot of stuff deep down the field. So didn't notice a whole bunch of people getting burned. But, I will say Craig Woodson seems to be getting more time at safety. And I love watching him practice. I love the way he diagnoses and his quickness to the ball. It's pretty impressive.
All right. That's all I got. Do you have any other observations that I might not have noted for you? Anything stick out to you that you have not addressed that you want to address?
So I don't think so, but I will say the kickers were back at it, and Borregales was 4 of 4. John Parker Romo was 2 of 4. What was interesting, and this is in no particular order, because I don't want to give away depth chart or anything like that.
Oh, of course not.
Just to give people an idea, because it's always interesting when you go to sort of a new scheme, which this is not all that different in terms of what they're looking for at positions, as far as the Patriots go on defense. But, during individual drills with the positions, the guys who were working in the linebacker group, Spillane, Ellis, Gibbons, Rice, Mapu, Cam Riley, and Tavai before he left. Working in the edge group in no particular order: Keon White, Chason, Truman Jones, Elijah Ponder, Braden Swinson, and Harold Landry. So, yeah, I mean, it's always just interesting to know where they have certain people slotted. And I didn't look closely at the last roster, but at this point in time, I wonder how long before Marte Mapu is just labeled as a linebacker.
It's the label that we wanted a couple of years ago when he was drafted. So hopefully it's working out for him. All right. He's Greg. I'm Nick. We will be back later this week. Until then, every single one of you, be well.